Hey, what's up, guys? It's Prison Mike here. So I just thought that now that we finished our first void of the new Head of State series, and it's been almost exactly a week since the new plane equipment was dropped, I figured now would be a good time to cover the details that we know so far about the new plane equipment and talk about the different equipment, the actual equipment pieces, the stats that you get, and the skills you get from level 0 up to assuming level 30 max. And then also talk about kind of just the cost and how to, probably most importantly, how to do some of these things with these new skills for much cheaper if you haven't already taken advantage of that, as well as just my approach to this and what I'd probably recommend for different players and different spending tiers, or if you're not spending any money really at all. So we'll jump into that now, and hopefully this will be a pretty helpful recap of the new plane equipment, which to be honest is not that much different from the officer equipment, at least not in the concepts behind it. And you'll see even like the costs and the different types of equipment pieces and items that are required are going to be the same kind of similar concept. Campbell's not really very creative with a lot of this stuff. They're not really inventing the wheel here. So anyways, this was the like that initial like a week ago, the little banner that we all had for the new plane equipment and the new event and everything that was included, with being able to improve the combat performance and blah blah blah. And you can see it all here too with the attack and unique skills. And I will say, to Camel's credit, they have some pretty cool new skills that I'll go over that are brand new and are pretty awesome. Although you're certainly going to be paying a pretty hefty price for it, which is not unexpected, as everyone probably already knows the plane is very expensive. So before I get into that, though, I figured I would show you guys some never before seen exclusive footage of my plane here dominating in the last void event here. So we're off. Oh yeah. Oop. Yep. So that pretty much sums it up for me. So the reason I actually just showed that is I thought it was actually quite entertaining. But the plane is, as I've already said many times, very expensive. And if you actually look, my plane is pretty average. This ranking is a little skewed because people can level up. You have 5 planes, you can level up multiple a bit, and so it's not necessarily fully representative of like one plane. But I'm not even on this top 8. I'm here at the 9th plane. Granted, I've only done leveling up one plane, but still, like, my plane is not particularly impressive, and I still can easily be competitive in most things in a reasonable way, like most of the different events and stuff like that, just doing what I always have done, which is buying like the level 1 and maybe like level 2 packs for stuff over like a year or two. That's the most cost effective way of doing this, and that's the way I've always done it, and it works fine. So you can see over here, this is the new plane, and you can see these little guys here too. He's got 2 little baby tail planes here. So just jumping right into this. So now you'll see there's this new equipment here. You can click on, right? And with that, there's going to be 6 new equipment pieces, right? It's worth noting I only have 3 of them unlocked. So before we even get into anything else, I think it's worth mentioning. So this is going to take Inquisitor 4, and this is then the Epic 5 and Immortal 5 to unlock these skills even. So I only have 3 of the 6 because I'm Inquisitor level 4 right now only. So it's worth mentioning before you even get into this too much that this is my chart here, how I think of planes, but so you got your green plane, your paper airplane, getting up to like your Hello Kitty kite, to like your Wright Brothers plane. And so as you go up to the blue, this Lacerator tier 5 is where you get your first equipment piece that you can unlock. And then the reason I also highlighted this Trailblazer tier 2, which is this first row behind it here of the purple tier. So the second of that tier unlocked, which costs, we're noting, I think 70 each tier, if I'm not mistaken, the first purple rows there. So it's like 140 blueprints. But these are the 2 that I think are worth mentioning right off the bat. And I have the 3rd one unlocked also, and I'm getting close to the 4th as well. But the reason I mention that is just because, so these are all the actual skills here, and I'm going to go over these in detail, but this first Wingplane row of 3 skills is the one that you need the Lacerator 5. And then this second, the Machine Head, which is one of the best ones, I think, when I go over the skills, that one requires the Inquisitor 2. So that's that like purple tier 2 one that you need to have. And this one I think is one of the best ones to take advantage of, particularly the first skill that we'll go through in that. And so if you can get to that, I think that's definitely the main goal and what I would try to accomplish. Just so I give you guys a reference here as I jump around all over the place. Come on. So again, this is what the empty page looks like of the actual skills. So these are, I just took screenshots and really put them in Photoshop here. So the Wingplane, you can see the first row of skills, and then the Machine Head and the Wingplane II. You can certainly just screenshot this if you want a reference, but I'll go over each one in detail, in a lot of detail as well. And then the body wing and the machine gun. And so again, the wing and the machine gun are like your gold plane, which like maxing, depending on how fast you do it, maxing your gold plane, the mortal tier plane out is like 100+K. It's like incredibly expensive. So there are not many people that are going to be able to do a lot of these later tier ones. Again, I'm basically about to unlock the body one here, but it's going to take me ages to get the wing and machine gun for how I choose to spend money in this game over time. So I won't really have these for a while, which is unfortunate, but it's fine. I think a big part of what I'm trying to talk about with this is not just the actual skills and things that you can unlock, but how to, for whatever type of player you are, to be the most effective with utilizing what's available to you to still be competitive. And that's like a big part of what I always try to do for myself as well. And hopefully it usually works out pretty well in being competitive with things. So again, these are just kind of the screenshots. I already went through this as well. So there are 3 new things to purchase, of course. They're the same concept as the, like that you just saw, like the ally for instance. That's basically the equivalent of that is this right here, which is these equipment components, which are what you need to actually level up the equipment pieces, those 6 pieces. And then you have to get these circuits, or excuse me, these chips, and these core items here. They didn't even change the name for these, like just like the core for the officers. And those are what's necessary to then actually do the skills. And so I think I took a couple of videos when I first did this just so I could keep track of the requirements and stuff. So you can see here, just going from like level 1 to 2. So the cost goes up each level. I'm doing this middle tier here, which is because it has one of the best available skills in the entire game, I think. And so you can see it gets more and more expensive, and I'm just leveling this up. And then once you get from 8 to 9, and then more importantly from 9 to 10, that's when you unlock the new skill. And then so once I've unlocked that, then you can go over into this equipment skills area, and that's where you can actually upgrade this here, and that's what I've done. So, and then it's worth noting, so all of the skills can go to level 5 for just these items here, but once you get to level 5 to go to level 6, they all now require these core items. So if you didn't spend any money at all, you could theoretically work your way to getting up to level 5, but the core that you're going to have to buy, so you won't be able to get past level 5 for any of these actual skills within the equipment items, right? So that's basically what that's just showing. So in the actual game, how that looks, just to show you again. So these are the equipment, you unlock them here, and then you can see what level they're at here, level 7 and level 7. And I did that by once you unlock them, you go over to these equipment skill items here. And then that's where you can push your way into the skills and leveling them up from 1 through what I assume and what seems to be the kind of community consensus is level 30. So we don't know that for sure, I don't think, because Camel doesn't believe in confirming anything or being transparent about literally anything. So you can't really rely on them or ask them for anything. That's honestly one of the reasons I don't spend that much money in this game, other than the direction they're going with, like this massive, dumping crazy amounts of stuff on us to have to constantly spend money on it, just like widening the gap so much between those that spend a lot of money and the rest of us. And I think it's really easy to get frustrating. But if you get frustrated, but if you do things the right way and kind of optimize things, again, you can be competitive. So I'm really going to try and focus on that for a lot of these videos going forward, is how to like utilize what you have available to still be competitive against players that are similar tier, because obviously Camels, all they care about is make money, right? That's their job as a business. That's fine, but they're just dumping stuff for basically there's the 0.01% of players who are spending 99% of the money in this game, that they're kind of catering to by dropping this type of thing here, this new whole equipment set that they can spend tens of thousands of dollars a week on to upgrade these things until the 7th anniversary, and they come out with probably the C40 4 or whatever the next big thing that people have to buy is. So for a lot of us, like these things, some of these things are not going to be available, and that's okay actually, because there's still some pretty good stats within here that you can kind of slowly work your way up to that can still make a pretty big difference. Just so you guys know, I mean, as far as like the cost of these things goes, or just the requirements, so each of these equipment items is more expensive to level up than the prior one, if that makes sense. So like the Wingplane, for instance, you can see it's only 40 to go from level 1 to 2. This one you can't see anymore because I'm already up at 16, but it was 48. And then, for instance, this one is 58, right? So it's more expensive even for the respective levels. And at like the level 20, for instance, for this one here, I think it's about 205 or 206 of those components for that, which is pretty expensive. But then if you think about that compared to for the machine head, I think it's about 247. And then I want to say for this one, it was like 300 and something, 315-ish roughly. So it gets really expensive. And then if you go all the way to like some of the most expensive ones, like the machine gun, it's about 550, I think, for the like level 19 to 20, right? So it gets incredibly expensive. And just another reference point for this. So to go from level 1 to 10 cost me 778 for this second tier here. 778 from 1 to 10. And then from 10 to 15, it cost 768. So it was like 10 less to go up that extra 5 levels. And that seems to be pretty consistent throughout most of the other equipment items too, for like the cost wise. And so it's certainly worth, I think, kind of keeping track of that in your mind too, about like how you're going to choose to go up for the next stat, whether you're going to, if you have, for instance, 2 things or 3 things unlocked, do you push from level 10 to 15 to unlock this skill, for instance, or do you start working on this one, right? So those are things you'll have to decide, and I can certainly give some insight based on what I've done so far and what I've seen, but I just wanted to give you guys a sense of kind of the cost of some of these things for the amount of equipment you're going to have to get. And then as far as how you obtain it, so buying it obviously is the main way that they're going to try and get you guys to and get us to spend money on this stuff, and I'm assuming it's going to show up in the specials and some of the dailies, some of the maybe weekly and even monthly ones, but it hasn't yet, so we'll see. It's only been a week. I'm guessing that'll kind of kick out eventually here and the next week stuff. In these like Road of Legends and these like monthly type quests, they started incorporating different things too for some of like the officer stuff and some of them in the past, and so I'm wondering if maybe they'll drop some. Obviously not in this one yet. You can see they even have some of this like dye and stuff like that for the decoration. If you want to get your like tie-dyed rainbow colored like emu, dragon, peacock creature and stuff like that, you can do that. And then actually you can see there's some of the officer equipment stuff here too that they alloy and stuff that they include for free, so you may get some of that the next time around too. You can also get 7 of the actual components, 7 for 125 each, and 3 of the chips for 250 each every day. And then it looked like, I think it was I want to say it was the Doom Arena. Was that the right one, if I'm not mistaken? I'm pretty sure it was, because I think, so it wasn't in the ranking place, but it was just when you attack in it, I think it gave me 30 of the chips, I want to say. Not the chips. It would have been 30 of the, it wasn't the components, it would have been, yeah, it would have been the chips, I guess. So 30 of the chips that it gave me from that as well per week then. So it's going to be a tough grind, I think, for most players if you're not spending money at all. If you're doing like what I'm doing, which is going to be buying like the first 2 packs like always and stuff like that, it's also going to be a pretty slow grind. But as I go through the stats next here, I think you'll be able to see that these skills and the stats they scale up with can be pretty meaningfully beneficial, even if you're not going crazy spending too much money on them. And so right here is the actual equipment skills, and you can see like locked means I haven't spent enough components to unlock them. So each of these 6 equipment pieces has a level 10, a level 15, and a level 20 skill. So it unlocks at level 10, level 15, and level 20, right? So I've done this second one here. You don't have to like go in order either. If you have the necessary plane tier unlocked, the equipment will be unlocked, and all you have to do is actually level it up here to the adequate stages to unlock those things, to then level up the skills. Like I said, you can go up to level 5 for just these chips, and then you have to start spending the core after that. And then just like in here, the officers, the degree that you can level up these skills is also limited by the level of the actual equipment too, so you have to keep leveling that up. So the first one here though then is this, for the Wingplane 1 is this stable Energizer, and that gives you HP and defense for all the troops in your Warplane army. Goes up 2.2% each level, and so assuming that you could take this all the way up to level 30, it would give you a 66% increase in your HP and defense for your army, which is pretty considerable, right, when you get that all the way up to level 30. The next item here is this Kinetic Machine gun, which basically has one of those little sidekick flying planes that I'll show you in a minute. They swoop in every 7.5 seconds and launch 3 attacks that deal about 24.2% damage off the plane's damage, that is. And you can max this actually up at, I think it's about an 88% increase if I'm correct with the amount you level it up and my math on that. So a pretty significant amount there. And then the last of the 3 for the first item is an attack for your troops. So it's got an HP and defense, now you got an attack for all troops that goes up 2.2% per level, so 66% also for your planes army attack. So this next one, which I think is the most important one that's available, certainly for me at least, is this increased damage to melee troops by my army here, right? So, and that's the armor-piercing laser. And interestingly, as you'll see, I don't know why they chose the equipment skills. I don't know if they even have any clue what they're doing sometimes, but why they chose the equipment skill in the way they did. Because like this, for instance, right here, that's available pretty early on. The Inquisitor 2, remember, is what you have to get, and that's why I referenced it earlier and kind of highlighted it, because this skill I think is like the best one, or certainly one of the best ones you can even get, especially if you're a long-range build, which 90 to 92% of people are in the game. So burning through that enemy melee, the enemy front row, as fast as possible is key. And this used to be something that, I mean, I couldn't even, like, I was nowhere near, right? So it's all the way here. It's literally the armor-piercing laser is the last skill you can get when you max your plane out at the Immortal Tier 7. Like, crazy expensive, crazy difficult to get to. But now they're, interestingly, like, just making it readily available here even, and I've already leveled up what I can, which is 6.6% at level 7. So this goes up that 0.8%, and so it would max at 25% increase, which is pretty meaningful. I think it's just worth noting that, so you can obviously get that through the last tier of the plane, as I already showed you, but that is very expensive. So the other ways that you can do this, and what I've focused on through the officers, is remember that Simon has this available. Right here, the melee killer. So the melee increased damage by 8.4% at level 13. And then I have this maxed on Stormbow as well. And that's 10% right there too at 15. So you can get it from multiple different ways. And then, I mean, that's pushing. So without having, there are people easily pushing well over 100% on this now. I'm obviously not doing that, but we had Polar today, I think. One of these here, I should have my stats in them. You know, I'm pushing like 80.5 increased damage to melee, like 80.5%, which is decent for somebody that can see 38 and stuff like that. But there are certainly people who have, especially the Max Gold plane, that are pushing well over 100% now on that. But I think that is, if I can stress anything, like that's the one to aim for. And so it's just trying to get to that Inquisitor 2 for your purple plane. I think if you grind that out over time and can slowly get the 140 blueprints to unlock that, this row is going to be really where it's at for the benefits. So interestingly, I wanted to try this one out too then, because I thought, so increasing your golems that drop by 4,040, I think it was, initially, just unlocking it, and then you have a 35% chance of reflecting 4% damage. Now that I have it at 7, it's a little over 11.5k increase, and then 28% damage reflection. So I thought that this would probably be a good one, because especially if you're doing group attacks and you have numbers that get this, I'm sure it averages out, I would assume, based on all the players that have this unlocked that are attacking. But it would seem like it would give you a really massive benefit to bring numbers into some of those fights against stronger players, especially if they don't have many reinforcements that also can kind of push the same stats out and the same type of increased numbers of these mechanical golems. So I thought this would be worthwhile, and I wanted to also just try and see how much of a difference it would make. And so I actually, as I always do whenever I upgrade certain things, I go to the uranium mines. And so I attacked, I think it was 5 people before I had this mechanical golem at level 7, which again was like a 28%, I think, damage reflection, and increased by like 11.5k from the actual golems I had. So interestingly, like if this side over here, like this left side is the pre-upgrading it, if you will. And so for the first one, I lost 84k troops to win, and then I only lost 77k, so it was about a 7k improvement in troop losses, which makes sense. But interestingly though, for the next 2 fights, I actually lost 19k more and like 12k more here, right? So against these people, I looked through all this in detail already, and I am positive that none of my stats were different, none of their stats were different, none of the troop types were different or anything. So it has to do something with the mechanics and the way like that they screwed something up in the fight to actually give me a worse outcome, which is kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't know how they sometimes like calculate and do the things they do. How I spent money and upgrade this considerably to then actually have worse stats or worse outcome is so stupid. But I'll have to look through the videos in more detail and see if maybe they like stalled my troops or something like that, so that they didn't hit as frequently, or they pushed someone closer to somebody else that they got like some AoE or splash damage or something. I really don't know. It's just so silly. But then for the last 2 fights, it also made a good difference in the positive direction. So here, I lost 250k in this fight, and then down to 215. So it's like pretty significant 35k improvement. And then against the strongest mid-range person in our globe, I killed. I obviously got absolutely annihilated. I knew I would. I just wanted to actually see his stats since I switched to mid-range recently also. And also just wanted to have an opponent that I definitely couldn't beat to just kind of see the differences here. And so I actually ended up killing these 2. I did flip around here on accident, so I actually killed 61k, and then that it increased to 72k, if that makes sense. So this one I flipped around the wrong direction, so this actually was also a positive outcome by killing about 11k more, kind of stalling my inevitable absolute demise. And again, this one's good, but it's so weird that 2 of these 5, basically 40% of the time, I actually had worse outcomes with this, which is so stupid and ridiculous. I'll have to figure that out because it's going to drive me nuts otherwise. But that's just Camel for you. So and they don't ever give you answers when you try to ask like why this stuff happens. They don't know. They just like don't care. It's pointless to even keep trying to ask them. So the overall results of this seem positive, but it's hard to really say how much of a positive that's going to be. And again, I think in group speed attacks against enemies, especially if you're hitting before they get a lot of reinforcements, it could make a pretty good positive difference for you. But that is yet to be seen. We have not tested that yet. We didn't have this available in the last void and stuff. And honestly, our alliance doesn't do a ton of essays, speed attacks, and stuff anyway. So the next thing then, so the third one is the HP attack defense for the melee. And again, it would give you a 66 at max. It'd be a 66% increase to the attack, HP, and defense of your melee troops. And I think people are realizing more and more now, if you're putting like 35-40+% of your entire fleet into melee, it makes sense that you would want to push all their stats up, right? Like, they're classically a damage absorbing troop, and they are, but they also can deal quite a bit of damage out. And if you look in reports, you'll probably be surprised at times to see, as you get up to like shredders, 37s and stuff like that, C-37 and the shredders and stuff, that you actually kill quite a bit of troops with a lot of melee front row too, because they're like always engaging in the fight, and that you have a huge number of them. So pushing your melee attack and HP, obviously, is, everyone knows that, but your attack is actually, I've seen my stats get better and better the more I help the overall killing I'm doing with increasing the melee attack. Not as much, obviously, as I do for like my other damage dealing troops, but it definitely still makes a pretty big difference. So this one is another really good skill. I think that's why this machine head like tier here is all really good, and that's why I think it's so beneficial to get that if you can, to that Inquisitor too. If you can't, and if you're a free player, you can still grind your way to the Lacerator, the blue plane, pretty easily over time, and you still get, again, 66% attack, 66% HP and defense to your stats at max. So it's still a pretty reasonable and worthwhile amount to slowly kind of grind your way toward. The Wingplane III, I think, is kind of a disappointing one. I mean, it does have damage increase for mid-range. That would, again, be up to 25% at max. It's just, like, I mean, I'm the only, now I just switched to mid-range. I'm literally the only player in my nation that's mid-range, and that's post-merger, so that's 2 nations combined. There were literally 0 mid-range, and it's less than 10% of the people, I think, in the game are mid-range. So you're just, when you fight them, it obviously helps. It's just, you're not encountering them that often. That being said, some of the strongest players are going to have a mid-range build, and so it still does help. This next one here is another one of those little wingplane guys that swoops over, and every 5 seconds it'll launch a energy cannon dealing 66% damage, which at level 30, when it scales all the way up, it would be 240% of your warplane damage output. So I just want to show you guys. Surveyor, which is one of our C41, one of our really strong players, was kind enough to share a video, and you could see that the warplanes here, like these are the little guy here and here, swooping, and you can see that they fire these blue, and you can see it actually took down the female titan there, and you can see there it hit the plane there. So it's hard because there's so much crap going on at one time, and like a million things flying in every direction. So you can see this one goes over here and he's flying there, and then the next time around, so every 5 seconds, hitting the female titan there, it looked like. And then this one, you could see it actually, again, kills the female titan. So both, and then that one hit the plane there. So both of them are actually, even though it doesn't specifically say it, both of these planes seem to typically, like, this one hits the cannons right there on that second fly around. They both really seem to target the mid, back row, and even like titans and planes, and avoid the front row, even though the first wing plane doesn't specifically say that. So the damage is not great early on, but when you can scale up to like 240% damage and stuff, and you're hitting those like titans, plane, back row troops, it will make a difference, certainly, I think, and it's much better than just, you know, hitting the melee and not doing like any damage, basically. So definitely worth over time leveling that up. But again, those are kind of individual stats for the plane itself, and I tend to focus more on things that are going to boost up your army's benefits and stuff like that. Overall, I think that's much more important. That's why I think, you know, these skills, like I've shown before, with increasing stats for your overall army are actually so good, and then increasing damage to the heat troops is really important here too. So okay, and then the last one in the second wing plane tier is this Titan resistance, which you're basically reduces damage taken from Titans by the Warplane's army. So your army takes less damage from Titans, and Titans, especially late stage of the game against, you know, end stage players and stuff, they deal massive amounts of damage, and so that is important. But it's just interesting that, so this Titan resistance is literally readily available right here. It's the second green thing you can get unlocked as far as these talent skills. So it's weird to me that it's a third tier unlock in the equipment skills that's that far down when it's so readily available right here. So it's really weird that they do these things in this way. So I mean, I already have 12% here. It's also worth noting that, so you actually, again, for quite cheap, I think, bear with me, I'm pretty sure it's I think it's Selena that has Yeah, so she also has Titan resistance, so another 3% there at level 4. And you do have to buy the equipment expertise here, the core items, but to get to level 4, it's not very expensive. Like you can see, it's only 13 to even go up to level 5. So it's not very expensive, and they're in the monthly or the weekly specials for pretty cheap over time. You can certainly get this much easier than you could having to unlock all that plane crap to get to the level 21 and then unlocking that. So I guess also I'm pretty sure it's Tifa, I want to say. Let me double check. I think Tifa has, yeah, she also has Titan resistance, right? So you have 2 officers that have it, and I have them pretty low level, but it still gives me like, I think it's 6.6% decrease, right? And then having it at a fairly high level in the actual talent skills, another 12%. So I'm, pushing like 20. I think it was what did I say? 6.6, so 18.6% or something like that, which is not a ton, but it's quite cheap relative to pushing all the way up to this, unlocking this, and then trying to level this up. At max, I'm assuming if it goes up to level 30, it would be a 45% decrease at max, which is pretty considerable, right? So that would be a huge debuffing over time. It's just going to be so expensive to get there. So then the last group of 3 here, I don't have access to those even yet. I will have access soon to the Inquisitor 5, which is the second row or tier of purple, to get these next stats here. So the first one is increasing attack, right? Just 66% at max, same as the skill you saw all the way over here. The next one is interesting. It's this Storm Bomb, which is new. So every 10 seconds, it deals a total of 154% damage to enemy troops hit. And it's almost like a AoE, like an area of effect, like a spraying or splashing damage to like a group or an area. And you can actually see, I think somebody sent me a clip just so I could see what the video mechanics look like on it, and I think it was this one here. It's super short. So it's just this little swirly guy, and it does damage to both of these here. And I've seen in a couple people's fights that they posted from the mines and stuff, it looked like it attacked like up to like 4 people. It's from what I could see. It's again a little hard to tell, but it looked like it was like 4 people, and it usually is always the mid row to back row area. And it seemed like it almost always was like in the area of the zombies too, like right in that middle area there, that they were always impacted. I will say that the damage it looks like it's done is very negligible, even though hitting multiple targets. It's dealing like 154% damage, and then leveling this up to 30, it would be 560% damage, so a pretty considerable amount of damage relative to at level 1. But this part of it here, this actual damage part, is not that important. I will get to why I think this skill is super important, actually, like bigger picture in a moment, so we'll come back to that. And then this one I think is really actually important. So now that I'm a mid-range build, the importance of hitting long-range troops during the fight and trying to wreck them before and bypassing the melee is really important. So this is probably like where it's at for me now. I really need to focus on getting this leveled up, and I eventually will get to that. It's just going to take me a long time to get to level 20 for this equipment piece that I don't even have unlocked yet. So anyways, the next one, and it is 25% too, just like the other damage ones. So this Misfire here, so the Misfire resistance, when you max this, it should be a boost of 180. So that's only 6 there. It should be a boost of 180. This next one here, so this is why I think that other stat is so probably overpowered realistically, the Storm Bomb that is. So you have a 6% chance of applying the disruptor effect with the Storm Bomb, right? So the Storm Bomb seems like it usually hits 3 or 4 people at a time, and 6% doesn't sound like much, but if you max this at level 30, it's 180% chance. Obviously, it's the math, like, it should never be over 100%. It doesn't make sense, because if it's 100, it's a guarantee. The reason I think they probably push it up to 180 is because there's actually so much disruptor resistance that's available in the game now, to kind of just like, they keep upgrading things that you can buy and then making things you can buy to resist the things you just bought, right? It's like such a stupid thing, but it's the way it is. So the 180% is probably to basically guarantee you bypass or can get through all of the disruptor resistance, or a large portion of it, to virtually guarantee that you're going to be able to put the disruptor effect on probably all 3 or 4 of those targets you hit. And remember, the disruptor is what prevents special like abilities or attacks, whatever it is, from that troop type for 8 seconds. So if this fires every 10 seconds and basically swirling around hitting four different troop types, the damage dealing troops in particular, like your zombies or your snipers who have this really high, every third attack, like super high output single target damage that's really strong. If you're not able to do that, and then this fires again, and another 8 seconds, you're barely ever basically getting your special attack, which would be pretty massively devastating, I think, and probably, like, if it works out the way I'm envisioning, would be low-key maybe like one of the best, if not like the best combination in this entire set, because you're basically negating the special attacker ability of the troops, and especially if it was the Titans. If it hit the Titans and stuff, that'd be massive, and it was able to stop their special abilities for 8 seconds at a time, and it fires every 10 seconds, right? And it's hitting multiple units, so it could be incredibly massive. And I think it'd be really sucky for mid-range too, because then you're not able to use your attacks to bypass the front row and hit those troops in like the mid or back row and stuff. So that'd be really devastating. So I'm hoping that people don't max that too fast. It'd be hard as a mid-range player to combat that if you're just always under the disruptor effect. They do make a counter, of course, here, which is the disruptor resistance, but I'll come to that in a second. So again, that's this storm disruptor here, maxing at 108%. The last one here is reduces damage taken from warplanes by Warplane's army. And so this is, again, assuming it maxes at 30, would be, I think, a 40-something% max amount. It's interesting that I'm kind of wondering, if it's 1.8%, I wonder if it scales, because I don't know, I haven't seen anyone with this yet, if it scales kind of like the other, I guess those are 0.8%. So I'm curious, I'm not sure how much this is going to scale up to, if it's just going to be 1.8% the like whole way through, if that makes sense, like as far as each level is still just the same 1.8%. And if it is, I guess, I mean, that would probably be pretty significant. At level 30, you're looking at 54%, maybe, something like that, 54%, which is pretty considerable. But again, I don't think that the warplane is doing all that much damage. I mean, it probably does for some people. Mine doesn't, unfortunately. So maybe that's just me. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that kind of scales up in fights. I'm not really sure what to make of that yet. The last tier, and just keep in mind with this machine gun, this equipment piece and its 3 skills, although very good, are going to be very limited, because, for instance, our nation, which is a merged nation now, has 1 player that has this ability unlocked, right? Like, out of everybody in our entire nation, only 1 person has a plane at Immortal 5 or higher tier to even have this unlocked. And so even though I feel like people were like talking about how these are such game-changing stats and things like that, and I'm not saying they're not, it's just they're really not that game-changing, because they're only going to be available for the whales who spend tens of thousands of dollars in this game at a time, and already can kick the crap out of everybody anyways. So it's kind of like there'll be a race between all the top spenders to get these things unlocked the fastest. So if they ever fight each other, I guess they have a little bit of an advantage, but otherwise they're already kicking the crap out of everybody else anyways. I don't know that any of these things are that much of a game changer, honestly. I mean, I do think that there's some cool ones that I'll get to. So this disruptor resistance, right? It's going to give you 180% boost total to help offset this massive amount that you'll see from things like this storm disruptor. So with this one right here, the interesting like resurrection, basically, or revival that you'll get. So whether it's a Titan or your plane that dies first, whichever it is, they will be revived and recover 2% of their HP. So my plane kind of, if it were to die first, which wouldn't be surprising, and it resurrected with 2% HP, like a gentle breeze could basically like kill it again. So 2% is not much, but at max level 30, it would be 60% of your HP back. So for like a Titan, especially if they went down, that could be massive, especially like also if for some of those players that are more like the whales with lots of troops and stuff like that, if they got hit by somebody or a whole group of 10, 20, 30, 40 people and their Titan goes down, it will resurrect with a lot of health left. That might be enough to really make a big difference. Well, hopefully they're getting people to reinforce them and getting more Titans, planes, and troops into their city from like a big surprise attack. I can see that being a big benefit. And then certainly in like some of the DoD competitions and stuff, when your Titan goes down or your plane goes down and it resurrects, especially like when you're running out of troops and you're kind of running through players in that with just like Titans a plane, that could make a huge kind of difference too and stuff. But again, for like most players, this is so far away, it's just not even applicable. And for those really strong players that are going to get this and level it up really fast, I don't know how much of a difference it's really going to make, because they're already kicking the living crap out of everybody else anyway. So hard to say. I mean, it's cool, but I'm so far away from it that it literally does not matter at all to me. This last one here is a really good one too. So this is reduce damage taken by melee troops in your army, meaning whatever damage comes into your front row, this 1.8% of it is negated or reduced, and that scales up 25%. So you basically would have 25% of all the damage coming in hot at your melee is not going to be able to impact them or take effect. It's a pretty big reduction. So that is another really, really good skill, another big boost that I think would be very helpful. It is worth noting that this is very easily and readily available in the male Titan already, right? So I'm trying to remember what the name of this. I think it's like a Rampart Halo, maybe something like that. Maybe this one. Yeah. So the Halo here, that does the exact same thing. Reduces damage taken from enemy troops by the melee troops of your army in battle, right? By 13% is what I have right now. Because I can't go any further. So that's really, really important stat and really, really good. But just so you guys all know, hopefully you've already realized that that's available again here in your male Titan, and quite quickly available too. Like, it's not very hard to unlock as far as upgrading your male Titan, and so you can get that to double digits pretty quickly, and that's going to be infinitely cheaper. And literally, you can do it for free in time compared to the last equipment skill all the way in the immortal tier. So it is a good stat. It's weird to me that some of these stats are like already actually pretty readily available, and sometimes they're actually available for very cheap. So I hope that you guys are aware of that already, and if you're not, use those things in the cheaper places before you go, trying to grind through this. Like, you remember, like, this is, Camel just dumping stuff on us here to try to give those big spenders something to kind of last until we get to C44. So it's fine not to be spending like crazy and pushing your way to try to get all these things unlocked and upgrade them as fast as possible, right? Like, I've been able to be competitive just spending kind of that little consistent amount all the time. And again, if I were you and you're a free player, I think focusing on trying to get to the Lacerator 5, which can be done for free, is a worthwhile effort and endeavor, right? If you're somebody who spends a little bit of money but not a ton, I know that the officer equipment is better, and I completely agree it is, and I'm definitely invested in that. But I do think that depending on how much you're going to spend, like a week or how you budget it, it's worthwhile to drop a little bit of that money you're spending into like the level 1 at least packs for some of the plane stuff too, right? And the reason I say that is I know the officers are great and stuff, but there will come a point that the officers are basically going to, or anything you get, is going to get more and more expensive to where it no longer will be a good deal relative to other things, right? So I guess just very quick example, because that maybe doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, so let's just go here. So Kingsley, it costs 30 of these equipment alloy to get 2% of benefits, 1% to the attack and 1% to the HP here and defense for your mid-range. So you get 2% of upgrades for 30 alloy. Okay, compare that to here. To get 2.1% increase in stats, so 0.1% more increase, it is 290 alloy. That is 10 times the alloy for the essentially the exact same amount of benefits, right? 10 times the cost. So, and that's the way it's for literally everything you upgrade in this game. It gets increasingly more expensive the longer you're hanging around and the longer you're upgrading it. So at some point, the plane is going to become cheaper to level up to like level 10 at least to unlock something like, like this, for instance, than it is to try to spend putting that into the costs for the officers to have the same effect. right? So that's why I think it's worthwhile if you do spend to allocate a little bit of that to like the important things to work on your plane, which mainly it's usually the blueprints, to try to again get, like, you have to get to this tier right here and the second one, that's where you need to get to unlock the all important machine head, which I think then you're gonna be fine, and you're gonna be able to get through all these things are good to the point where working on just these two tiers right here, these two equipment skills, will take plenty of time. It's a slow grind, and I think you'd be just fine doing that for a very long time, and you're not really missing anything out by not being able to go like this Wingplane III. Even this body one, I mean, it's gives the same as here. With this, without this, isn't that great, and I mean, this is really good, but it's going to take me quite a bit of time to unlock it anyway. So, point being, I think these two first equipment skills are very worthwhile and will give a lot of good stats if you just slowly work your way toward them, and you'll be just fine. That's how I would approach it if I was either a free player with this first one or spending like a little bit allocating some to this machine head over time, I think. Otherwise, the rest of these, it'll be really interesting to see how they kind of work and scale out over time. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If there are questions, please leave comments. If you have just constructive criticisms, as always, leave comments. Otherwise, please like and subscribe if you can. It's greatly appreciated. And I'm going to hopefully keep coming out with good videos and good content that will give you guys solid advice to stay competitive and hopefully dominate in your head of state events and stuff like that as well. So as always, thanks again for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. Best of luck and happy hunting out there, okay? Hey, it's Prism Mike. So I know the video was supposed to be over, but then if you were reading and following in it, you saw that there was this big update. So what actually happened was I was literally uploading this to YouTube, and the game was in the middle of maintenance. And when the maintenance ended, I logged back in just to see if there's anything newer or cool and stuff like that, even though it was only supposed to be apparently for that arena. And of course, lo and behold, the first thing I noticed was, in looking at the plane, since that's new, I was just checking that. It's quite interesting that, so if you remember the video, like, so my machine head equipment piece is only at level 15. I haven't changed that, but both the actual skills, the armor piercing laser 2, and this mechanical golem were stuck at level 7, because until this update that just happened literally overnight, you couldn't go up to level 8 without increasing the actual equipment piece, the machine head equipment piece, from level 15 to 16. And now with this update, even though they haven't said anything that I've seen anywhere in any of the updates, I don't know if they're just trying to like low-key sneak this in or what, but or if they figured out that they don't know how to do math, and now they have to like recalibrate everything here. I don't really know what's going on or why, but I can just tell you that I guarantee before this update overnight, I could not update these things to level 7, and I already went up to level 8 just to make sure it wasn't some weird like glitch or something like that. And so you can see here, I went from 7 to 8, and it still isn't saying that, so I'm just going to keep going up here. 9, 10. Okay, so now literally I'm at 10. So before it was at 7, I had to go to the 16, now it's at 10. So that's going to be interesting to kind of recalibrate the max levels for some of these things, and what we can potentially anticipate they're going to go to. I just finished working 12 hours. I'm not going to sit and go through the math again to try to figure that out and speculate on it, because honestly I don't really care. In less than a week, I'm sure some of the whales will have maxed one of these things and post them, so I'm really not going to waste time speculating. But I think it's worth noting at least that now you can get up to level 10, so I'm also going to go with this one. I've been granted, or well, I'm out. So I don't know, I'm out of these the actual chips here, so I'm done. But interesting to see. That's the only big update I wanted to make sure that people are aware of. So the nice thing though, again, for pretty cheap, like buying just those level 1 and 2 packs, I spent $4 on that stupid like spinny game where you can get resources and a million other things and stuff that they offer at first. I literally spent $4 on that, and I'm just buying these like first 2 level packs, and I bought I think 3 or 4 of that special pack though, at least the initial one. And with just that, I'm already at level 10 for this, which is a 9% increase in the damage to melee troops, which it was more expensive actually. So I know the plane's super expensive and all, and it is, but I already had this unlocked as far as when you look at like the actual tier. So I was able to do this machine head already because I'm in these Inquisitor tiers already, so I didn't have to spend any money on that. So all I had to do was take the equipment up to level 15, and then it was just the chips and the core pieces for this. So it really wasn't that expensive. Honestly, I haven't sat down on the math in this yet. I put a bunch of math and stuff I had already done in this long video before, but it really wasn't that expensive to do this and get this up. So this first column, you know, here that you see, like this item here, this item here, like this first column, if you already have access to it, is really not going to be that expensive. Just buying some of the low level packs over time to grind that out, honestly. It's going to be much more expensive to do some of these other tiers as you get to like the 15, especially level 20. That's, I think, what's going to be a lot more expensive. And then getting those levels up from like 10 plus and stuff like that starts to get pretty expensive with the amount of chips and stuff that you need. So, but like everything in this game, it's only expensive if you have no patience. If you can wait and just buy 1 or 2 packs at a time, you'll be fine. It will take weeks to months longer than the people who max buy every single pack to get stuff right away. But if you just are patient and buy the first couple packs, this stuff will not be that expensive. It's like everyone always tries to argue about the cost of like taking the plane to gold, and everyone has like these wildly different like 10K, 100K, blah blah blah. Like, guys, it matters so much on how fast you're talking about doing this. If you max buy every single pack available in every single special and bi-weekly, you know, chests and stuff like that to try and get the Warplane max as fast as possible, it's well over 100K to take it from nothing to gold. It's actually 140K to do that right now. But if you want to take 4 or 5 years and you're just buying like half the packs and nickel and diming it, it's going to be well under half that cost, right? So it's completely related to how fast you want to buy stuff and how patient you can be. So for people who are slowly just leveling stuff up, you will have access to a lot of this stuff, and it's not going to cost that much. It's just going to take a lot more time. But I wouldn't skip over a lot of these things, because as you can see, there's incredibly useful skills like this that are not that hard to have access to if you have a low purple tier plane. So again, hopefully this video was helpful for you guys, and we'll see kind of where things go in the next couple weeks. I'll probably try and do some updates once some of the nice whales post stuff for the rest of us, because without their help we literally would know nothing. So it's really nice of them to post that. So I appreciate all the people that helped with this video, posting things and sending me stuff, and people from our alliance and Discord and stuff like that. It's greatly appreciated, and hopefully it'll be useful for you guys and kind of sharing that information and just kind of collecting and organizing it. But really, it's the people who spend all the money to unlock this stuff and then share it that deserve the, you know, the appreciation and the gratitude for this. So thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope this was helpful. Have a good one.